Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be. I'm Sean Michael, the Inner Potential Activator, here to share another Monday Mindshift. And today our topic is about mindful listening, how to deepen connections with your listening skills. I'm excited to share this with everyone, whether you're watching live or in the replay. Let me know if you're here because, for example, Restream does not show me how many people are watching on LinkedIn Live. So if you don't comment, I don't know you're here. So let's light up the chat and share your thoughts, share your questions. Look forward to discussing this with everyone. And I will be sharing the link to join the stage. If you want to join the stage and discuss with me, I will welcome you at a later point. Once you see the link on the screen and in the chat, then you know it's time that I'm welcoming. Looks like I'm flying solo again this week. I haven't heard from my co-host. I pray she's okay and everything's doing well for her. Anyway, so today, mindful listening. This is something that I feel is severely, it could be better. It could be better. A lot of times in life, we just want to be heard, right? We want to be understood. The fact is, most people don't listen. They're simply waiting to speak. And I have this quote to share with you. If you're waiting for your turn to talk, you're not listening. You're just acting patience. You're performing patience. You're demonstrating patience. There's actually a study from the University of Minnesota that found that the average person only listens with about 25% efficiency. And in that study, they said that we interrupt after about 11 seconds on average. But if you ask people, 96% will consider themselves good listeners. But the truth is, most of us have not been trained to listen, to actually listen. Hi, Liana. Thank you. Pinker, I'm doing well. Glad to have you guys here. So let me share that quote again let me share the stat. So I would present this to you all that are listening live or in the replay, that listening isn't passive. It's actually one of the most active forms of leadership we can employ. The truth is if you don't know how to hold space, you'll keep stealing it. And the reality is that listening is not just a nicety, it's actually an important leadership skill. Let's not mistake presence for passivity, because deep listening is actually a superpower. According to HBR, leaders who demonstrate strong listening skill are rated 40% higher by employees in trust and influence. When you amplify that and make it empathetic listening, it leads to higher engagement, faster conflict resolution, and increased innovation, where people actually feel safer to share ideas. So I would present to you, if you want to be trusted, it's not about talking more, it's about leadership, listening deeper. The fastest way to elevate leadership is to shut up and show up. Now, another fact here, we can't hear others when we're at war with ourselves. When we're judging ourselves, it's put static on every channel and it makes it so you cannot tune in to someone else because you're drowning in your own frequency. That internal noise, that shame, defensiveness, this need to prove ourselves filters what we hear. I actually was just reading this as part of another project I'm working on. A study was done where this is a little off on the side, but the study was done that when they asked people to describe an accident they had seen, when they were asked how fast were the cars going when they smashed into each other versus how fast were the cars going when they hit each other, the results were very, very different. Most people who heard the smashed claimed that the cars were moving much faster and there was actually glass on the ground when there wasn't. So our brains actually filter and distort a lot of what we bring in. So when we're trying to listen effectively, if we're still fighting with ourselves, we're filtering that through shame, defensiveness, this desire or need to prove ourselves worthy. We're actually limiting what we hear. We're actually affecting what we hear. We hear through our own wounds. We interpret through our fears. And we usually defend what doesn't need defending. The truth is when you build internal calm, you can create relational clarity. The reality is we don't have communication problems. We usually have self-worth problems in a mask. Also, mindful listening exposes something. We'll call it emotional laziness. There's no points for sitting silently, but mentally crafting your comeback or your response. This isn't listening, it's actually emotional multitasking. And science has shown that the brain doesn't really multitask very well. It's actually very slow. I've shared this fact. When I was 16, I got a computer and it had a 1 megahertz processor. My current computer today, that's about 13 years old, has a 2.5 gigahertz processor. And I don't know the latest processor in iPhone 16, but I know it's faster than even most laptops, and it's insanely fast. But our brain is actually only operating at 30 hertz. So multitasking, whether it's emotionally multitasking or trying to actually multitask, is terribly inefficient. University of Southern California found that people only remember about 50% of what was said to them within minutes after the conversation. By practicing active listening, we can improve our retention, our empathy, and even our EQ scores. Emotional laziness comes out or displays in this rushing to fix things instead of feeling it, or interrupting the speaker because my story feels more urgent, or simply tuning out because, hey, I already know where this is going. So here's a quote for you. Emotional maturity isn't how well you speak, it's in how deeply you receive. Let's sit with that for a while. Emotional maturity. I'm going to put it on the screen here. Emotional maturity isn't in how well you speak, it's in how deeply you receive. So the next time you're in a conversation, try to listen more deeply. Try to focus on what the speaker is really saying. Listen from a place of centeredness and calmness so that your fears aren't distorting the message. Listening is not something we train in our ears, we train it in our body. Neuroscientists have shown that presence and regulation during conversation lowers cortisol, that's the fear and stress hormone, and increases oxytocin, the chemical, the connection chemical, the bonding hormone. By practicing mindful listening, we actually shift not only our own brain chemistry, but it shifts theirs as well. And having a calm, regulated presence creates psychological safety where we can be more vulnerable. We can Lisa, thank you for joining. Yes, not how we talk, it's how we listen. I always heard that's why we have two ears and one mouth, because we should be listening more than we speak. Samira, thank you for joining. So, as I was saying, it's a nervous, like mindful listening is a body thing. It's a nervous system skill. It's something that we can build by going into a conversation from a place of peace and tranquility and centeredness. And when we show up fully present, people don't just feel heard, you feel safe. And this builds trust. So here's a question for you. Whoops. I'll put it in the chat. Where in your life are you rehearsing instead of receiving? Have you ever gone into a conversation where you were just performing, staying quiet, so it seems like you're present, but in your head you were thinking about what was for lunch or how am I going to respond to this? And on the other side of it, have you ever been in a situation where you felt truly heard, where the person you were with, like you could just feel like they're listening, they're trying to understand? I'd love to hear from you guys on your own experience with being truly heard. I know my own experience, it was powerful, where I shared a need that I just want to be heard. I don't need fixing. I don't need explanations. I don't want any of that. I just want to be heard. What I'm feeling, what I'm thinking. And it was powerful. It was so powerful. So I'd love to hear from the audience, regardless of whether you're here live or on the replay. Share in the comments about a time where you felt truly heard. They didn't fix, they didn't judge, they didn't rush. And share what did that unlock for you? What insight did you gain by just being truly heard? Hello, Leslie. Thank you for joining. So let me put that on the screen. I have a good, powerful question with that. Now, I want to put something out here that this presence, it's just about being present, being focused on the person we're speaking with. It's not about perfection. It's not about being and unlock the fear of trust. Interesting, Leslie. And on the side, how do we show the other party that we are truly listening? Right? Sorry to hear that, Samara. I hope one day soon, very, very soon, Samira, that you will experience that, because from my own experience, it was amazing. Like, I can't even describe it. It was something I've never felt in my whole life. And feeling it was just magical. Right? But as far as demonstrating, those who I trusted abandoned and betrayed me the first time I was really heard. Yeah, usually it's someone we know. Like, and as I was saying before, Leslie, when someone truly hears us and is truly present, it inspires trust, right? If we already have some trust, then it amplifies it, right? Or if we don't have trust, it brings trust that wasn't there. This is also why coaching is so powerful. If you get a good coach who actually listens and just asks the right questions, then it helps you unlock the things that are already in you. Yes. So, Samira, I'm wondering, how do you demonstrate, or anyone else, how do you demonstrate to someone that you're listening, like that you're really listening? I'd love to hear from the chat, what are some ways that we can demonstrate to the other person, that we are really, really listening? And I feel weird doing this discussion all by myself because I'm just jabbing. So let me throw this up here and put that in the chat. So if someone wants to join, I would love to open this discussion up and hear other voices, not just mine. What comes to mind when I talk about how do we demonstrate are the standards, right? The ones we've probably all heard. Good one, Chris. Show up with others, Don't expect anything. Just let people be who they are. Asking questions. Good one, Samira. Take out the earplugs, Ileana. Yeah. Maintain gentle eye contact. Pause before replying. Very, very powerful. The best one, my favorite one, reflecting back what you think you heard. You'd be amazed. Yes, repeating your sentences. Explain further. Yes, Leslie, ask for further explanation. One of my favorite follow up questions is tell me more. And then just engage and listen, let them explain. But yes, repeating their sentences, clarifying what you heard or what you believe you heard is so powerful. And it allows the other party to get you clear. Right? They can clarify for you. And set you straight. The power of mindful listening is immense. It improves our personal relationships, it improves professional relationships. At work, it can boost collaboration, productivity. At home and in personal life, it reduces conflict, increases connection. So powerful. And it's something we have to consciously practice. Right? And we have to approach it with this. Well, I actually heard this in an event recently. No frapping. All right, Chris is going to join me.
Well, hello there, sir.
Hello, Chris. How are you?
I am doing great on this marvelous Monday. How about you?
I'm doing excellent because I choose to make it that way.
Well, when you really think about it, choice is the ultimate path to freedom, is it not?
Can you repeat that, Chris? Because my headphones were connecting, so I missed part of your sentence.
I said, isn't choice the ultimate path to freedom?
I agree, 100%.
And even when you're thinking about connection and how we actually can listen to people, like I said in the comments, maybe we don't have to expect anything from anyone. We just are willing just to show up. Because when we're just willing to show up and we can listen to each other and then learn from each other, then we can lead in a completely different way because maybe what we have been conditioned to believe or led to believe, we had to do things in a certain way or in a need of kind of way to end up getting the certain outcomes that we want. But see, the one thing we fail to probably maybe recognize, which is the one constant, not only throughout life, but also throughout business, which is change. Change is the constant. We can't control it. We can't manipulate it. We can't even put it in a box. So once we allow change just to let literally just do what it does in and of itself, and sometimes we don't even need to understand it, but we just need to be present with it, then we can make it in a way that we not only see it for ourselves, but maybe possibility from a place of possibility and possibility that when we actually just allow it to kind of take hold and shape it in the way we do. Because again, I even did a newsletter today about who defines clarity. Is it you? Is it them? Or is it us together?
And on that, I would say ideally, the best clarity is collaborative.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And I want to share this on the pop up here. I heard this in an event recently. They said one rule of this event was no frapping.
Mm-hmm.
And frapping stands for fixing, rescuing, advising, or projecting.
Nice.
And it's, as you said, it's a great reminder to to ourselves when we enter a conversation to just show up, be present.
Yes.
We're not trying to fix them, we're not coming with expectations. We're just there to listen and let the conversation flow where it might flow.
And when you even take it to the next level step, even from a place of not only collaboration, but even from a partnership kind of dynamic, especially maybe even in business, people come to say, hey, you got to be really clear on these specific things. I understand that, recognize that. But see, again, going back to, and I'll put the link to the newsletter that I created this morning a little bit later on so everyone can go look at it, is I recognize that the fact that what I deem to be clear for me is only for me to understand and recognize to know. But when I put that out there through the gift of invitation, and maybe for the very act of giving it is not only giving it to have it to be gived out, but also to receive something else in return to such an extent, maybe if I can just put the kind of idea out there, what if we was to start here and then go to the next step? Because again, like I said in the newsletter, we can't predict the future. We can't even know what's coming tomorrow, the next minute, the next month, the next day. We really don't know that. But what kind of holds us down to a large degree is we say we got to know what happens 5 years from now, even though we know in our hearts and our minds we can't even get there.
Right. And we may not even be here in 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest. I mean, I learned that lesson very, very young because I was in the Navy on a ship, and one of my shipmates was standing on the mess deck talking to a friend, 24 years old,
Mm-hmm.
picture of health externally. You know, he didn't look unhealthy. He went to the gym. He seemed to be a healthy young man. He fell down dead from a heart attack.
Right.
And the doctor said there was there was nothing that could be done. By the time he hit the deck, it was done. They couldn't have saved him no matter what. And it taught me really young that every day is a gift.
Yes.
I had a funny statement that I used to say. Every day I get up and look at the obituaries. If I'm not in it, it's going to be a good day.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And see, the beautiful thing about that is, Sean, when you really think about it and you just reframe your life in a way that you say to yourself and maybe to others through the gift of invitation, that you say, I want life to happen for me and not to me, even though I know and I recognize it can be both for a lot of people. It does happen to in both sides of the dynamic. But when we choose that we want to end up having a better way forward or a better way to lead people or the better way to create buy-in or just be a part of something bigger than of ourselves, maybe we do it from a place of simplicity versus complexity, because I recognize, Sean, that there are two people that we actually have to cater to throughout life, even also in business too as well. That there are the high level people that they got to dot the I's, cross the T's. They got to read even the damn fine print, and that's just who they are. And I accept that. I understand that. But also, when you get involved with people who do get things surprisingly simply from that place of simplicity, then you can really actually bring both sides to the table. And again, recognize what you can actually learn from one another, because everyone has a gift. And once everyone recognizes everyone does have a gift, it's not the same exact one compared to Sean or to Chris or Ileana or to Leslie or whoever that might be. We just recognize what is there and not say what's not there, even from a place of clarity. We just say, hey, how can I learn from something or someone today that can not only provide value to them, because I truly believe, Sean, the most priceless dynamic and even investment in and of itself is that human investment, because human value is very priceless by very definition. And once we really recognize that and we bestow that value onto people to the nth degree, they know it, they see it, they have it in their heart of hearts, even from those high level people, even from those people of simplicity. I truly believe that's what you cannot solve.
Agreed. Yeah, that's the connection, that human connection.
Exactly.
And Leslie's sharing some great points that often there are people who are just talking to talk, and it's the same phrases over and over and over. And we can tell that they're not listening, right? They're just waiting their turn
Mm-hmm.
speaking, right? Rather than actually listening and being mindful, as we said, mindfully listening to the person in the conversation
Mm-hmm.
with no agenda, no, reducing the filters. One of the one of the people I consider one of my virtual mentors, he actually calls it the coach state. There's a coach state and there's a crash state. The coach state is and open, centered, open. I can't remember what the second C is or the H, but it's basically this mindful listening, right? To come to
Mm-hmm.
the conversation ready to hear, ready to listen, ready to be part of this connection, to create that safe space.
Mm-hmm.
People can dig deep and open themselves up to share from their deepest emotions and challenges and traumas, etc. And the crash state is the one that leads us to the conflict.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll even take that a step further, Sean, is when we're wanting to deepening our connections, maybe we just got to recognize that we, by very design, have been social in nature. But for whatever rhyme or reason, we have been told by others, and maybe from our family members to our leaders at work, that you have to, again, like I said, do things in a certain way or in a need of way to really get the results and or the things that you want out of life. And it's almost like I will go back to the great John C. Maxwell in his great book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. He even says in that very book, Sean, is like why we would even taught the need of playing King of the Hill to where we actually trample over each other just to get to the very top and everything. So when you think about that from even from a place of trying to deepen your connection, you put I firmly believe, Sean, and I want to get your thought on it too as well, is we kind of say we got to have expectation there. We got to have end up having maybe understanding if there's a hidden agenda, if there's a way that we, and I truly believe this too as well, that from for whatever rhyme or reason, Sean, we pick apart people to the nth degree that we actually say, only these five things I will take, but everything else I will discount and just throw them out the window. And for me, I don't live by that frame of mindset anymore because I used to be that way. That's why I'm a firm believer if you embrace others for their differences, for that which makes you whole, not only are they whole by very design, but you are as well. And the way you can connect with them, again, is by listening to them, just learning from them, and just let things be for what they are versus what they're not.
Yes, exactly. And I want to address that, let's see, I was listening, not forming my answer. So give me a moment to think about this. It is about connection, it is about listening and letting conflicting beliefs or statements challenge us, right? We
Mm-hmm.
don't shut them down just because it goes against what we believe. I'm not saying we get into an argument, but we are open to hear and go, okay, yeah, maybe I should evaluate my belief alongside that.
Right.
It's very powerful, and I have a mindset that always open to learning regardless of who I'm speaking with. It doesn't matter where they're from, what their age, any of that. None of it matters to me. I
Right.
actually, my 7-year-old teaches me more than any book, any course, any or having young kids, it'll teach you a lot. But let me address, Leslie had an interesting question, that when sometimes someone keeps repeating the same thing over and over again, how do we point that out to a person? One of the ways that I like to, we could call it a pattern interrupt, because a lot of times in life as human beings, we tend to get into that broken record cycle, right? Like she says, we don't even realize we're stuck on this loop because we're so embedded in the loop. So, as an outsider, we can interrupt the pattern and say, you want to know something interesting? That's the third time I've heard you say that today. I'm just wondering, what does that mean to you? This addresses it in a way that makes that, it doesn't attack them. We don't want to attack them,
Correct.
but it brings awareness, like, hey, you're on this repetitive pattern. What does it really mean to you when you say this? What does that mean?
Or you can even take it to the next level and make it surprisingly simple, and you just simply ask them, why do you feel this way? Or why you say what you say in the way that you have? Because sometimes, again, when we are willing to truly listen to each other, Sean, sometimes the best question to ask is the simplest one, even though it may not be simple to others. But then again, that's where probative, open ended questions come into play, because everyone has a different wavelength, not only in the way they speak, but how they show up to others. And once we actually get on that wavelength with them, and again, just like I said many times on many broadcasts, I just want to meet people where they are and take them for who they are, nothing more, nothing less. Because I recognize there are people who are in this high level kind of people that they just are in that place and space, and that's okay. And also, there's those people who are in the simple place, and they get everything from a place of simplicity. But again, I want to meet them on their level, and the way I've kind of learned this is I've been in the restaurant business for over 35 years, and I've seen this play out to where whether you're a bartender, you're a waitress, you're a leader in the business, whatever, they will not only look you in the eye, but they will meet you at your level. So if you're sitting down, they will sit with you. If you're standing up, they will stand right beside you. And to me, that's a way of not only from a subliminal place and space, but a nonverbal cue too as well, that they are wanting to be on that level. Because if you're not, if they're sitting down, you'll stand up and make them feel like that you're actually over them and that kind of thing. And
Mhm.
for us, the way we can do that is again from a place of questioning, but not belittling of them. Just take everything in, because again, everyone communicates in a different way. If there was one universal way of communication, when you think about it, Sean, we would all be doing it right here, right now, would we not?
Right? Yeah, and it would probably be about pretty boring.
Yeah.
Well, and to take that, you make a good point, because when we're trying to connect, we talked about the standards, right? Eye
Mm-hmm.
contact, nodding, asking people to repeat, asking clarifying questions, deeper questions. Like I said, my favorite one, tell me more.
Right.
But like you said, if they're sitting down with them. There was a really good book I read about parenting,
Mm-hmm.
and it said, like enter their space instead of like trying to yell at your kids, like you need to put that away because we got to get dinner ready. Like
Right.
get down to their space. Like, oh, what you doing here? What you drawing? What are you playing with? What are you building? Come down to their level so that you're not in an above position. You're alongside.
Correct.
Very, very powerful. And I would go even further. Like, if someone is talking and they're using a lot of hand gestures, and I'm not usually a person to, I'm not saying I am, but if I'm not the person, if I just kind of use a little hand gestures as I talk, it builds connection.
Correct.
Or if the person we're speaking with is talking slower, we slow down. They're talking faster, we speed up. We're not
Right.
we don't have to perfectly match them, but we come closer to them, right? Just like you said,
Correct.
when you're up here, come down closer to their level, or in their vocal tone, or their pace and rhythm, or their even their volume, right? If someone's talking
Mm-hmm.
quietly and I'm talking loud, there's going to be this mismatch. But if we come closer, if I can bring my low volume down closer to theirs, then it will build connection. And then I can
Correct.
demonstrate, like, my intention is to hear you as a
Correct.
partner, not an authority or not an outsider. Like, I want to come alongside with you and hear you.
Correct. Correct. And see, the great thing about wanting to connect on a deep and meaningful human level that's literally priceless by very design is, number one, it doesn't have to be perfect. It does not. You just let it go, you let it flow, and you don't have no expectation or agenda how that relationship shows out and shows up to a lot of people. Because again, if you embrace others for their differences, for that which makes them whole, it makes you whole too as well. But also, I recognize too as well, Sean, when you really think about it, is maybe the thing that we probably maybe lose sight of is, let's say if someone does the hand gesturing all the time, every day, every way, that's just who they are, and then others don't do that with us, do we subliminally or even consciously in our minds say, because they don't do this, then I am now going to scout Bob or Susie or Bill because they don't do that with us? And for me, I don't care how you communicate. I really don't, because you know the reason why? Because I understand everyone communicates differently in their own way. And when you do that, that you just let that be, because again, you're not going to have someone come in your place and space that is going to be exactly like you, because not only of the knowledge, but the communication level, and also the experience level they have in life. And see, when you really take all that into consideration, then maybe you can say, hey, I'm just going to take this for what it is, come what may. I'm not going to be judgmental about what Bob didn't say or what Crystal didn't say, but I'm just going to take it all in, because, see, again, sometimes the best people that you can learn from is sometimes the people who don't even speak a word.
Exactly. Yeah. And we're deathly afraid, in general, people are deathly afraid of silence.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing it again and again, where when the conversation goes silent, like, oh, wait, something's wrong. We got to fix it.
Yep.
But there's power in the silence, right? Especially when it's a deep conversation, that there's some stuff to chew on there. There's
Correct.
some data to digest. So here's a question for you, Chris,
Okay.
and the audience. What can get in the way of being fully present when someone is speaking?
Well, there's a lot of things that can get in the way. Our ego, or just it's our innate nature to always talk about ourselves and just always do that first and foremost than anybody else. Uh, it could be the level of knowledge that we have to feel right, to be right, to put people in their place, so to speak. And I've come to find out, Sean, it's not about any of that at all. It's not about having an ego, because I recognize we all have one, or even a bias uh, in and of itself. And for me, Sean, when I recognize all those things are kind of like a pigeonhole or a weight or a ball and chain, whatever that may look like to each and every single one of us, that kind of holds us back for being present in the present moment with people, I'm willing to say I'm willing to let that go with Sean, because I know Sean has those very same things, maybe in what I have to deal with of a bias or an ego or whatever the case may be. But I'm willing to do the very same thing with him, and hopefully him with me, to where I can just let all that go, set that aside, and be present in the present moment, to be, I guess, willing to listen, willing to learn. And just if I can learn one new thing a day, or even through a place of conversation, then I recognize, and maybe even with Sean, that I can have a productive conversation because of it.
So that brings up another, what defines a productive conversation?
You can define it in so many different ways, but it depends on what the outcomes, again, what
But
people are
but
perceiving
how
that
does
to
Chris
be.
define it? How do you define it?
Well, for me, I define it in uncertain terms. There's no way I can define a productive conversation in just one thing. The one thing that I can say it can be a good predictor of having a meaningful and deep and in-depth conversation that's going to be enriching for all is that people say, Chris, I want to learn more. Let's take another conversation to the next level with this. Are you open to that? And see, when you do that in that kind of way, again, through the gift of invitation, and you extend the invitation out, another invitation because of it. Because the more that you just do that, and you, again, you don't put expectation into the conversation, you don't have to say it's got to be this and got to be that, and this is the way people's got to show up. When you start putting those kind of things into the conversation that doesn't necessarily have to be there, then you're
Mhm.
setting up the parameters of what a conversation not only should look like, but also be. And I'm going to actually share with you, Sean, and you can probably put it in the chat. This is uh, a great video from Julia Dar, and I'm going to send it to you on the back channel, uh, about having constructive conversations in and of itself, from Julia Dar. And what she says in this is three things, literally in and of itself, is, can you do it from a place of curiosity? And with that curiosity in mind, can you actually create the conversation that will actually be like a climbing wall for all involved to move the needle and dialogue forward? And of course, her other big thing is too as well, is can we choose curiosity over clash? Because a lot of us get into that place of clash. I guess we gotta be better, we gotta be bigger, we gotta be in the know. We're more the expert than somebody else, and that was her first thing that says we gotta really understand that, recognize that. But thirdly, she says is, can we get to a place for all involved to be rooted in common purpose? And I truly believe those are a great framework to have a deep and meaningful conversation, in and of itself. Because again, if we're willing to be so curious about someone else versus what we all want to end up putting out there to the world and just make it all about us, then we don't learn nothing. But if I'm willing to say, I'm not talking about me today, I'm talking about Sean. I want to know what Sean is thinking about or what Leslie is thinking about. Then that's how we can take the next step forward. Because again, if I'm willing just to take everything in, just will be willing to listen, the next thing you know, the conversation takes a totally different turn from which the one you came in with it. Because see, for me, if I can come into a conversation and leave it better from which I found it, then I've had a deep and meaningful conversation.
And when you say better from having found it, can you define that for me? Like,
Well, there's no one way to define it, because see, when you first get into a conversation, we all play it in our heads, Sean, that we have to expect it to be in this kind of linear way, that this is the way it's got to be played out and this is the way it's going to look like. But see, I don't do it in that kind of way. I do it from that framework that I want others to want it to be better in which I found it with them, because I don't want their preconceived notions, ideas, biases, egos, or whatever that might be, actually still filter through along the conversation route, along that path. Because then again, if they are willing to let that go from the very, let's say, 5 minutes into a conversation, and they actually say, I'm going to throw this out now, I'm going to throw that out now. And then when you hear those kind of things that really truly resonate with you, from which you first initially started a conversation with, that you didn't even expect to even say that you're going to even have with somebody, that's how you can leave a conversation better, of putting things out there that can not only be the connectors of a conversation, but get us to a place that's not necessarily transactional, but can really be transformative in scale to such a large degree. Because again, what's the one thing that it's the one thing that we can't control of, which is change. Even within the conversation, Sean, we recognize there's going to be a change even in the conversation. How we show up to it matters, but how we even have others show up to it matters too as well. But then again, there's no preconditions and how people show up to it. But I think what really kind of puts us in a kind of a place of, like I said, that pigeonhole, or a wall of defense, or whatever that might be, when something does change that doesn't feel good to us, or whatever rhyme or reason, maybe when we take the step back into the place of discernment and find out what is that look like to me right now. Maybe do I need to ask a question of Sean and say, Sean, clarify that for me. I want to know more. And sometimes it's not a bad thing to do, but sometimes when we are being said to that from that other person's point of view, we kind of put that guard up and say, okay, I don't need to explain myself or anything like that. But then again, that may come from many different places. But if we're willing to let all that go, again, like I said, I truly believe that's how you can leave a place better from what you came into it. Because then again, you still want to keep it open and inviting. And again, you don't set any preconditions. You don't put any time frame on it. You don't even put a limit on it. Because again, we kind of limit ourselves and say, hey, to people, you only got 2 minutes to explain this. Explain this in 2 minutes. Why do we do that to people? People talk in their own unique way and how they convey things. But then again, when we are limiting the scope of connection, we're limiting not only that scope of connection, not only from us to them, but we're putting that kind of same kind of limitation onto them to us. That then they're going to say, hey, do I really need to go through this? Do I need to actually say anything? And then sometimes I've seen this play out. A lot of people start tuning out and maybe even getting off a call because they feel like this is not the place for them.
and for me, the measure of a powerful conversation is, like you said, non-transactional. It's transformational.
Mm-hmm.
That that the other person leaves the conversation feeling heard,
Mm-hmm.
feeling understood. Perhaps they've gotten some insight or shift in their thinking or their feeling. I experienced this on several conversations. By the way, I have conversations typically 7 to 10 times a day.
Okay.
I've been tutoring English for many, many years, and I have 7 to 10 different conversations with people from different countries and different cultures. And it's a good practice ground for conversation.
Yeah.
um, so having somebody walk away and go, wow, that like something changed. Like I felt different when I left that conversation than when I started.
Exactly. Exactly.
Like you said,
And
I'm not looking for like, oh, you got to have A, B, C. It's personally defined. But if they can walk away feeling different, they can feel better about their situation, their life. That's a win for me.
yeah. And I can even take it a step further, Sean. And the way we can connect with each other is find the things that are truly interconnected to us by very design. It's like the one thing that we have that's interconnected to us right here, right now, is our very humanity. We're already showing up to that very table of humanity each and every single day, every way. But see, the thing about it is, how do we even define humanity in and of itself? There's many ways you do that, because when you allow diversity of thought and you allow diversity of points of view to come into play and you just let that all be there. And again, I know we get into the semantics of there's the right and wrong and the things and that kind of thing, and I get that. But what if there is no right and wrong? What if what works best for you at that current moment in time? And I truly believe the way that we can get out of that trap of the right and wrong is maybe again we just listen to them and just ask a simple question and say, what about this? What if this could be done, or what if this could be achieved? And again, what's the most powerful thing in and of itself is when something is so resonating to them that it really changes the way that they view their world, even in we're living together in the very same world, then maybe we can actually observe it in the way that maybe they see it to us, and then maybe that we can actually have them view it in the way maybe that we view it. And again, when we start connecting the dots, so to speak, that's how we can do it. And there are many ways to get there. And there's just not one way. Because again, if we knew that book to success, knew that book to life, knew that book to business, we wouldn't even be on this call today. But that's the beautiful thing about humanity. There are many paths and many ways that you can have a conversation to really engage and get in depth and then get in scope, but just let it be.
Good points. Like John Lennon said, let it be, right?
Yep.
We're at the top of the hour, and I want to respect everybody's time, yours and everyone included. Thank you for joining, Chris, and sharing your insights and your thoughts. It's appreciated. I thank everybody who's been in the audience. Hope everybody has an awesome week. And remember, like, I'd love to hear in the comments what's one big takeaway today? Like, what landed for you in the discussion about how to be a more mindful listener when we're in conversations? How do we connect better with that person on the other side of the table? Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next week.